So, introducing the only or the first Amazing Racer to win a leg without a fast forward for an all female team. Please welcome to the podcast one half of the Dynamic Sisters, Mary and Peach. This is Peach.
Hello, everyone.
Thank you for coming on to the Random Reality Star podcast.
Sure, I'm happy to be here.
So, first, I always like to lead off with talk about your casting process. Was it your sister that had the idea? Was it you? Why did you pick each other as partners?
Well, ours is quite unique. We actually submitted an application for Mary to be on Survivor without her knowledge because Mary doesn't have television. So we didn't really think she'd be picked, and she was. So we had to basically tell her everything, and then I had to go to the interview because she doesn't even watch TV. So I had to answer all her questions, and then they came downstairs to get me because they knew it was a facade and that it was really me they were interviewing. But I'm not your Survivor person. I love the show, but I couldn't do it. So they decided we'd be better as a team duo because of how opposite we were. And that's how we got on The Amazing Race.
So, did you know what The Amazing Race was back then? Because I think I saw on a podcast that it hadn't aired yet, but it was airing like while you were in sequester before it started or something. Like it was.
So I watched the first episode, and then I believe, if my memory supports me correctly, I think that's when we applied for her for Survivor, and then they had to just bring us up to speed what the race was because it was so new at the time.
So I actually read in your bio that before even applying that you had never put on a backpack, and the first time you put it on you fell backwards. So after that, why would you want to go on the actual show?
I know. Well, once I got my sister involved, then I had to do it because we went to Philadelphia, went through the whole process, and then I couldn't let her down. If you watch the show, you would know my sister is quite aggressive. So I exercise and run and all that, but that I could do. But I've never been in the woods. I've literally never put on a backpack unless it's a Louis Vuitton.
So was the show, like going into it, what did you expect it to be and how difficult it was? Because you kind of, like even in the first leg, like you had to rappel off that giant mountain and you had to hike to the Virgin Mary and you looked like really like kind of sick in terms of the altitude and stuff like that. So was it like what you expected like coming into it or?
So The Amazing Race was everything, and oh my goodness, like opening up now in the sense of opening up a surprise ball of just shock. So I think I was in culture shock. I was in altitude sickness all at the same time. And then I didn't want to let my sister down. So all those variables put together had me I was really nervous. That would be my answer. Definitely nervous.
Yeah, were you nervous about the physical aspect? Because I want to talk about you had to hang glide in the second leg and then you had to hike down these mountains. Like, were you nervous in terms of like those two things? Like how do you think you handled it? Or like what was your approach going into it?
Oh, I absolutely was nervous. I've never done anything like that in my life. And I remember them clipping me on, and we had to wait because the wind wasn't correct. And then finally they said we had a window to go. And when they did, it was just run and jump. It was crazy, but yet like this adrenaline you've never felt in your life. And they're paying me to do this. Like, this is crazy. So yes, I was scared and excited all at the same time.
Yeah, so you finished towards like the middle of the pack in the first leg, and then you kind of get your footing in the second one, finishing fourth. Talk about that third leg and kind of the airport drama that we didn't to see, because that looked like a nightmare in terms of like going all the way from where were you going from Brazil to Johannesburg, or I think that's where you're going.
Yes, let's just say this is my idea all the time. If you, the viewer, would see what the contestant goes through in the airport, you wouldn't believe it. When I travel with friends now, I laugh because things happen and I think you people have no idea like what we had to do. So imagine you have these two sisters running crazy, huge, massive backpacks. You're not allowed to run in an airport. And I'm a rule follower. So when everyone else would run, I would make Mary walk because I'm like, no, 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 we're not allowed to run. So yeah, the drama of that. And then people finding like different ways to get to the location faster. And then it goes through the teams like wildfire. Well, so-and-so found this. So then you have to try to find it. And it was crazy, just crazy.
Yeah, like I was watching the I think it was the fourth flag, and you were only like 5 minutes ahead of I forget who it was, but basically you just sign up for a bus, and everybody else was like, drive, go faster, and you were like, don't speed, please don't
Yes.
speed, and you were like the last one on the first bus, and I can just imagine your sister being like, Peach, be quiet.
She's like, stop being Polly Pocket. We can just do what you got to do. But in the beginning, they gave you all these rules, and the rules I took seriously, like no speeding in the other countries. This is the speed limit. If you do this, you're going to get a penalty. And I'm like, let's do it straight and narrow. Apparently, that wasn't correct, but that's just the way I roll.
Was one of the rules not being able to sleep on the beach because you did
Oh,
not look happy in that first leg when you had to sleep? I don't understand. Like you're like, I don't want to sleep on the beach, and you're just like, I want to eat. So kind of
yeah.
was that argument like more than we saw?
So
'Cause
that
you
argument
loved-
is huge. And I mean, months after the race, I'd go places and people would say, I don't like you anyway. No matter where I would go, they would use my words. And I'd say, you don't understand. You don't understand the pressure we were under. However, you understand the creatures that were on the beach, the bugs, just terrible things. I couldn't close my eyes. I wanted a hotel room.
So, uh, what was it like? Just because you're like had a lot of travel, especially like in the third leg. Like, what was it like going to like all these historical sites? You went to like Nelson Mandela's prison cell. Like, what was it like in terms of like, I don't know if you really absorbed the history that you were like going into like during the race because you're obviously so panicked,
Right,
like
right.
stressed. But maybe like looking back at it, like do you like appreciate that, or like what's your thoughts on like all the historical sites that you were kind of able to go to like during the race?
So right now, just the question gives me goosebumps. The thought of Nelson Mandela's cell. At the time, I appreciated it. I just didn't realize it until, truthfully, when we opened the door or went, I just remember going through the door and it being so small, and you got this overpowering feeling of just awe to stop and breathe and take it in. And then you had in the back of your head that race, you got to go, got to go, got to go. But yeah, absolutely. And now obviously as I age, I look at it and I appreciate so much more down to the detail, that how blessed I am that I got that opportunity.
So, uh, just talk about obviously. I think in Africa, other than you winning the one leg and then getting eliminated, I think it was one of your most memorable legs. Excuse me, because you were on this train to the village to do the roadblock, and people were like, don't go to this village. They're gonna like rob you and mug you, and you're gonna die." And Mary's like, "I was nervous." Uh, Mary's like, "I was nervous," and then you're doing a confessional, like, and they're like, "Oh my God, we're gonna die!" Like, so kind of just talk about that. Like, what was your feeling like when they were actually saying it, and then going into the village, and then it not being as bad as like you think, even though like you're worried for your sister, and then maybe just like you giving the sunglasses away and stuff like that. So like, kind of explain the whole process there.
Okay, so first of all, being in South Africa, mind blown. You just can't even fathom the feeling when your feet touch the ground. So then obviously the area that we were in on the train was, I looked like a square peg in a round hole. Like, I mean, it was bad. So, and again, now Amazing Race is early. It's very early on in the season. So people don't really know us yet. So they think we're just two random travelers on this third class train. So literally, they really believed we were going to die. So I'm already apprehensive and scared. And now I have this local girl begging me. She begged me not to go there. You will die. So I literally thought, well, here we go. I'm going to die. I'm going to die in South Africa. So then when we arrived in the village and my sister had to separate from me, I literally thought I was going to have a heart attack. And I was so worried about her. And then I had to get out of myself, and I just kept looking for her, and she wasn't coming back. So then I thought, I'm definitely dying here. This is where it's going to all go down. And the crazy is, and I can't remember for sure if they showed this or not, but when my sister came back, I don't know at this point what she did. And she's talking to me, and I'm like her person, like your hair's in your eyes, you have something in your teeth. You know, there you are, everyone needs that person. Well, I didn't know that she drank out of the goat head, and she had fur in her teeth. So it sort of took like the edge off a second of the crazy. Like, what were you doing? And then, of course, then I can't remember exactly because it's been such a long time now. But before we started the race, she, without a doubt, wanted to do as much good as possible. And as much as sunglasses doesn't seem like that big of a deal, it was something to touch the people that they would remember us. Well, the little people especially. Yeah, so that just, that was the most beautiful experience of my life.
Well, I bet looking back at it, you're glad that she drank out of the goat head, and I'll get to this later because you had the aversion to the tea, which I'll get to, obviously, towards the end. But I bet you're probably glad because that looked absolutely just vile, according to people.
So I'm not a vegetarian, but I only eat chicken. So I eat no other meat, no milk, no cheese, nothing. So can you possibly imagine a goat head with fur on it with whatever the liquid was? I don't even know what would have happened there. Thank goodness she did it. Would have been humiliating already.
So, I forgot to ask in the beginning. This is my fault. Where did your nickname Peach actually come from? And then, did you do any prep maybe before the race? Obviously, carrying backpacks, but.
So my name is Peach because my parents had 6 children, and my name was supposed to be David, and then I show up, and I was 100% girl. So my mom wasn't prepared. So back then you had to have a name, before they left. So she called me Maria, which my sister Mary, and my mom is Marie, all means the same thing. And as soon as my dad saw me, he said, she looks like a peach. And hence the name forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
I was glad that you responded to my thing. So like, wait, do I have the wrong person here? I thought it was Peach.
Well, I actually received that at work, and I thought, you have to understand, we get a lot of crazy stuff still. So I had to make sure that you were legit before I answered you. Well, I answered you to be polite, checked it out, because I always will advocate for the show. I mean, it is an amazing television show. Yeah. But to answer your question, how do we prepare? So like I said, I'm a runner already. So I just tried to walk with a backpack on, but I'm telling you, you can't. I've never been pushed to that level of stress while carrying a backpack, while being awake for 3 days, while using my brain and my physical activity all at the same time. Until you're there, no one will ever understand. All racers, hands up to them.
So so can you just talk about, obviously you raced for them very long, but your relationship with the Gutsy Grannies, because I was obsessed with them. Like, they were hilarious. So did you have any like good Gutsy Granny stories or whatever?
Oh my goodness, I have tons of stories. So the Gutsy Grannies are as amazing as they came across on television. I mean, spicy. like super spicy. The one really liked my sister, and then the one really liked me. So it was perfect. So we had like this intertwined, relationship with each other. But they actually had a really bad flight going to Africa.
Yeah.
I can't remember the details, but so we were separated for a little bit from them. But after we were eliminated, not that I even like to talk about that, we really spent a lot of time together at the sequestered location, and a lovely time.
It's actually going to be one of my last questions. What was sequester like? But yeah, their flight was really bad. They went to like all the way to JFK, and then they went to like London, and then they went to like Johannesburg. So they had like 4 connections.
Right, and they hit a really bad turbulence. I can't remember where, but I know they were thrown to the floor. So it was difficult for them.
Yeah, but so talk about maybe the fourth leg and what we didn't see. I think you did that roadblock, if I'm not mistaken.
Remind me, Connor, which one?
Oh yeah, talk about like what was that? I think yeah, it was the fourth leg. You were in that desert type area. Talk about I think it's interesting compared to Hong Kong and then the fourth leg. You both went for the fast forwards on each of them, and you obviously didn't get them. So maybe talk about like how the resiliency came to that fourth leg compared to like Hong Kong, where you're kind of like exhausted after that point.
Yes.
So kind of how did you push through, like even though you're like crap, we're probably at the bottom in the fourth leg.
So I believe are we talking about South Africa in the pool?
Yeah, so this is the fourth leg. So kind of talk about like what was your mentality going for it at that point, and then how did you like catch up like in a way, or how did you like not give up in that situation?
Right. Okay. So we made a pact with each other, my sister and myself, that we would go every other roadblock. And I didn't want to let her down. So I kept trying to find whatever this inner thing was to make it. And I believe if my memory serves me, that is the one where we had to find the clue in the swimming pool.
That was the fast forward.
Okay, then remind me which one.
So I was wondering, why did you go for the fast forward, which was on one in the swimming pool, and then the roadblock? They had this thing where you had to like, I don't know if you would call it really slaying, because you were down like a desert hill. You had to go like a thing, and you had to go down the desert hill, and then you had to shop like in the little village or whatever, and carry the giraffe.
Okay, so let's go back to why we picked the fast forward. We were both exhausted, and at this point, the viewer doesn't know. I'm pretty sure I have something wrong with me from the first leg, from the water. So you have to remember, you are on like a high level of Cipro for your body to get through all. So I don't feel well, and I see a doctor via running through the airport, which is all like on the fly. It's the craziest thing. Stranger, are you Peach? Yes, I am. Like, and we talk really fast. So I don't feel good. So Mary is trying to get me to have a break. So that's why we go for the fast forward. But she still has no mercy. I still have to do it. So then we found the fast forward, which was in the pool. Didn't know, obviously, that our buddies already got it. And they were our best friends in the race. Danny and Ozzy, I mean, all the way.
Yeah, I would love to interview them.
And I didn't think about not going in the pool with all my clothes on. I mean, I was soaking wet then. It was just like a disaster. And then we picked the sand dune. Okay, so you have to imagine you have to walk up I think if I remember correctly, it was 500 feet, soaking wet. So the wind is hitting me in the sand. I'm like a giant marshmallow. It's just sticking to me. So we get to the top, and I'm like, oh no, I'm not. And Mary's like, oh yes, you are. Just hold up. Well, there I took off my shoes and my socks because they were soaked, and I couldn't put my feet down for brakes. And Mary was really, I will give her, she was so worried about me because I couldn't put my feet down to stop. So I flew right by her at the bottom, but I survived.
Yeah, it looked like I was worried for people because, like, wait, could somebody actually, like, blow away? Because they look like little pieces of paper, like, trying to hike through this. mountain and they could just blow away.
Right. It was that windy, Connor. It literally was. And now imagine I'm dripping. So the sand is just sticking as the wind's blowing it all to me. It was crazy.
So after doing the you had to go down the sand dune, you did the shopping. Was there anything we didn't get to see with that? Because your sister was like screaming at you, like, make deals, don't spend too much money. And then I like saw other people spending like, I don't know if it's actually a lot of money, but they were spending like 100 whatever on something, or I don't know how much money it actually was in terms of like how much you had, but like what did we not see there? Because your sister was, I think she was like screaming at you like, make deals, don't be dumb, yada yada yada.
Okay, so my sister is a control freak to begin with. So no matter what, it's about what she thinks, and that's it. So what you don't see is whatever money you save from the previous leg, you can use on the next leg, but that would be only because you did ingenious things because they only give you enough to get by.
Yeah.
So she's a hoarder, so of course she saved every last dollar she could, and I found actual solace in a little bit of shopping because of the conditions you're in. But she wouldn't let me buy anything. And then when I had to buy I believe it was the 5 animals, she wanted me to barter. But that's where I have like my heart gets in the way. I felt bad, and I just felt like I should just give them whatever they wanted.
Yeah, so how annoying was it once you're done with that when Blake and Paige take that alternative route and ask you, did you just want to whack them upside the head with that giraffe?
You have no idea about Blake and Paige and the rest of the teams. Yes, we made pacts like within the team. I mean, now they call it something totally different, but where, okay, if you're going to take the fast forward, we're going to put a rock in the box. That means, or if we put it in the right corner, that means Mary and Peach are on their way. Well, Blake and Paige did something, and I can't remember what it was, but they lied to all of us. So they were lying which now obviously was great, but they lied to us from the very beginning. And again, truth teller over here, when we went for the fast forward, I'm like, no, you got to put the rock in the box because that's what we said. So.
Well, and now Blake's a multimillionaire, so he's probably doing really well for himself. So
can I say something about that? So when Blake met my sister Mary, as long as I'm on this earth, has been a philanthropist. And she always wants to help the other person. So Blake had a lot of in-depth conversations with Mary about how she pulls this off. But Mary did it without any gain in her thought process. So when Blake pulled this off, how amazing is that?
Yeah.
He did both. He did good for other people and for himself. Yeah, it was pretty neat to see.
It's probably like, where's my cut now? But
yeah, my sister, if she had TV, she'd know that. She doesn't even know that. I mean, I have to tell her everything.
So after the 4th leg, you go to Thailand and you have the infamous shopping moment. Was there anything that we didn't get to see from that pants argument? And why did you want those pair of pants so bad?
Okay, so if you know a girl, a woman, whatever, you know that we go high, low, and the shopping was high for me. Well, all my clothes to this point are disgusting. And that's Mary's everyday life. She doesn't care. She doesn't change her clothes. I wear beautiful clothes every day. So one pair of pants would have been a miracle for me. It's like buying a girl chocolate. Oh my gosh, we feel. But no. She wouldn't let me buy the pants. So of course I had a hissy fit. That's what sisters do. I'm embarrassed of it, but that's how I felt at the time.
So how difficult was it navigating the streets of Thailand? Because other than like a couple, I don't know if you still watch the show, but other than like Oman and maybe India, and maybe China, it looked probably one of the hardest countries to navigate, especially for like a lot of teams. Like, how did you kind of get through that? And can you kind of talk about how you kind of finished at the top of the pack, because you finished in second, but you were kind of like in the middle of the pack like the entire time. So like, how were you able to navigate so well in a country that looked really crowded?
So Thailand was beautiful. First, we'll start there. And you were in awe of it. And you had to keep reminding yourself, I'm playing a game. I have to focus, focus. And we definitely, being two girls in Thailand, that really helped us, where people were kind and gentle. And obviously, we couldn't understand the language, but there's with the eyes, and we could try to get out what we needed, and a little bit of help. But we really did well there. We really were in sync in Thailand, and I think that's what it was. We weren't on each other quite so much, and I think. Just the boat ride alone, when I I face planted on the boat, my sister was so was so worried about me that I knocked all my teeth out, and she I think she humbled herself a little bit to come down and just be like, okay, I think I might be a little hard on her right now.
Oh, I totally forgot to ask. So, how was doing the dance in South Africa? Were you like, yay, a performance because that's way better than hauling fish?
Yeah. Okay, so my sister wanted to haul fish, of course. I said, so here's the thing. You don't like taking a bath on a regular day. I'm not hanging out with you after hauling fish. Let's just do this dance. We have to dance for money, and if you have to know her. She doesn't dance, she doesn't nothing. I'm like, we're gonna do it. And then in the big boots, I mean, it was classic. It was awesome. And now looking back, oh my goodness, I'd do that again in a second.
Well, and you're probably like, we're girls, we can make a lot of money, but
Yeah, no, I'd have to teach her what to do.
so talk about what was your kind of rationale between roadblocks? Because I'm looking at it, and your sister. Oh, you did. I actually misread that. Never mind. I was going to say your sister did 5 roadblocks and you did 7. You lasted 7 legs. You didn't do 7 roadblocks. But talk about like your roadblock strategy. Because your sister actually did like 2 in a row, and then you did 2 in a row. Were you kind of jealous that she did the roadblock in the second leg, where you kind of had to like go on that boat and hike up that mountain, because that looked really pretty? Or were you kind of glad because she's good at hiking?
Well, actually, we didn't have a plan going in who was going to do what. We just thought we're going to, by the seat of our pants, we're going to do this. But I don't know if you know this or not, but one of the most beautiful pictures of my sister in that was in Reader's Digest magazine. And she's running through this field of flowers. And I'm telling my sister is ripped, like seriously ripped. And her arms, it looks like a commercial for I don't know, a vitamin or something. But I didn't know how beautiful it was until I actually saw that Reader's Digest. And I don't think the viewer got to see on that episode was Mary knows all the ins and out of how to get out of a ravine. And she knew there's 2 exits versus 1. And we took the one that she knew no one else would take, that would be quick. And everybody was really, really mad at us because she knew this. But
Why?
I know
It's
well,
like
because it wasn't on the paper. Like, so they felt that we should get in trouble for taking this. And we didn't do anything wrong. We just did something that she knew that they didn't. I wouldn't have had a clue that you could do that, but she did.
So, do you have any like so after the Thailand leg, or which you crush and you finish in second place, and you how did you get through the confusion later roadblock so fast? Like, did you know where you're going, or did you have somebody follow you, like Oswald and Danny's like personal navigator?
I don't know what it was that like. We were just on it. I mean, we stayed up all night long, and Mary did a lot of research. We'd go to hotels, to the lobbies, and ask a million questions. So we were just really on it.
Well, what I'm wondering is, did people know like what you were doing? Because like when you were watching the show, like you saw people like reading the clues and like trying to help everyone, and like did they even know like of the show, or like what did they think that you were actually doing?
Well, a lot of people, I would say 90% of the people we came in contact with had no idea about the Amazing Race. Not like now, where you
Yeah.
can, they see you in an airport and you're like a red flag. So they didn't know. And then the bad part is if they wouldn't sign a release, you really couldn't use that. So it pulled you backwards, so to speak. You
Yeah.
could try, but if they didn't, you couldn't.
That's what one of my friends told me. She was like, she was on it recently and she was like, yeah, it takes you like 15, 20 minutes just to sign a release and it's a big
Oh yeah.
pain.
Well, and what
But
they don't, oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
no, you're fine. Keep going.
What people don't realize is when you go in and out of every country too, your camera crew has to go through customs. Well, they're your people. So you have to wait. So if something happens, like the same camera has to go in and come out. So they'll go through it, and it doesn't mean that it's all easy. It's not.
Did you have any production difficulties at your time during the race? Because I actually interviewed Pat and Brenda and Karen from season one, and they talked a lot about like getting to the pit stop and production wasn't even there, or getting to a place and production wasn't even there, and then like screaming at production. And did they kind of have that fixed on season two, or was it such like a pain?
No, I feel production, they had it pretty, it was pretty good. In South America, we actually landed on the Clue on the beach first, just by chance, before we went up to the top of the mountain. And they were just setting it up. That was one thing, but that it wasn't a big deal. And then I know another one backwards a little bit. When we were running up to the Cristo, to the Christ, I recognized a few of the uh, spectators as production, and I'm that person that goes squirrel, like so I'm like, hey, is that? And of course Mary dragging me. It doesn't matter who it is, don't be pointing. So they weren't inconspicuous like they should have been, but they didn't know that we'd recognize them that easy.
Yeah. I feel so bad for production. I wonder if they have to go through some sort of training because I can't even imagine like keeping up with everybody and being panicked. Like you could lose your job if you don't do like certain things. But anyways, so after the Thailand leg, it's your best leg of the season. You end up winning it. Uh, so, what was the feeling when you're doing the boat race and you pass Gary and Dave, you completely destroy them, and you're screaming out, "Girl power! We're so much like you're just like girl power." You're the last girl team standing. The first two get picked off fairly quickly. But what was that kind of like? Just because you looked really excited, obviously.
So we called that team Itchy and Scratchy. That's secret code in racers. That was their name to us. So so we were really good buddies too, but Mary fought with them. I mean, pretty intense. So when we passed, they were like, we're going to take you down. We're taking you down. And they have no idea. Mary's a kayaker, and she used to be a raft instructor, those like whitewater instructor. So I knew we had it. I just didn't know what I was doing. But when we passed them, it was amazing. That is all true. And the girl power, 100%.
Well, that was pretty clear. Unfortunately, you didn't know what you were doing. How bad was that fall? Because it looked not fun at all. And then she was like, switch with me.
So we're going down, and you have to understand, I have 3 coats on because you're going from all these different climates within a day or 2 days. So I have all these clothes on, and Mary's like, push, push, push. Well, my stick I didn't know, I pushed it in front of the boat. When it got stuck, I catapulted my face right off the boat. So that's when Mary thought my teeth were knocked out. And I got up and I like was stunned a little bit. And she's there, okay, switch with me. Are you okay? And I'm like, let me just see if my teeth are still there because I hit so hard, but I was okay.
Yeah. So, talk about you win the leg. Did you actually get a prize? Oops, why am I mute? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, sorry. It said that I was a mute.
That's
Did
okay.
did you actually win a prize during the leg? Because I know they introduced prizes, but it didn't say if you actually won anything. So did you win anything?
Okay, so on Amazing Race 2, there were no prizes for first.
Oh,
We were the no,
I thought
no. So
Taylor and Will won something in Hawaii. I think they won something in Hawaii the first leg, but I wasn't sure if they had it on every single one.
maybe it was random, but I know we didn't get a thing. Not just congratulations. We actually, I can still remember this, when we ran up to the mat, we were so, you've yourself convinced that you're out. You're always out. Like it's this head game you play with yourself. And we knew Itchy and Scratchy were behind us, so we thought we might have been next to last. And when Phil said, "You're team number one," I mean, what, I can still hear that if I think about it. It was awesome.
So are you disappointed that you didn't get to win a prize? Or are you like, come
Yeah, of
on, like
course I'm disappointed. Everybody wants a prize.
yeah, apparently they make you pay taxes on these things, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
don't understand why, even
You
though it's
tax
sponsored.
everything you win, and through the Amazing Race, even though you didn't win the money, you still win a certain amount for how long you lasted on the show, but you have to pay tax on everything.
So uh it's actually seemed like you bonded with Gary and Dave, and you obviously talked about like Oswald and Danny being like really good friends. Who else did you kind of bond with, and who else did you not like?
Okay, so from the very beginning, the twins, we bonded with them from the very start. The twins, Danny and Ozzy were they were my favorite two people on this earth. Lovely, lovely humans. Um, the grannies, of course, we pretty much, and the pastor and his wife, Cindy and Russell. Cindy and I really got along well, and Russell. Who didn't I like? Oh, and of course I like the winners. I mean, that was the big, they kept trying to put us in this romantic love affair, and I just got married at the time. And it was, that's not where we were, but we were friends. I like everyone.
Wait,
I mean,
they tried putting you in a sorry, they tried putting you in a romantic love affair, and was like Tara just a sloppy seconds, I guess, or like can
well,
you explain that? Because now I'm interested.
mine would have been with the other guy,
Oh,
his partner.
okay.
Yeah, in Africa, they tried definitely hard. And I'm like, yeah, no, 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 no.
Yeah, your sister probably talks some sense to you. She's like, you are not going to do this.
Oh, she's, you're not going to do anything for anybody. We're going to do this for ourselves, and that's it. I was just being kind. I wasn't being
Yeah.
flirtatious neither, but it looked good for television.
Do you have any like? Obviously, I'm going to talk about Sequester later, but I think a big focal point on The Amazing Race 2, which we didn't really get to see in other seasons, was drama at pit stops and
Oh,
people oversleeping and random penalties being assigned and all that other stuff. So, do you have any like memories from pit stops, or like in the Amazing Race 1? They kind of had like parties like in Africa and stuff like that. So, do you have any like fun moments or like any interesting stories from maybe your 12-hour layover in a brief country
so
from
pit stop,
anywhere?
crazy. So one of my most memorable moments was in, let me just go back so I have my places, in South America, when you had to room with someone in a tent. So I'm like, the only person I'm rooming with is Danny and Ozzy. That's it. Because at this point you're stinky, and and I'll never forget, Danny and I are taking a shower, and they were these like crate, like, they're, everything's outside, and it was a sprinkle can with a string. So we're in the shower, each of us, and I'm like, and don't even think about peeking. And he's like, don't worry, I'm not interested. So it was awesome. But we're both, getting the shower, and I follow the hose to the sprinkle can, and I say, Danny, the hose is going to the river. It's dirty river water. So him and I were both equally like traumatized over this. We think we're getting clean, but those are things you don't see. That one, and let me think about this a second. in South Africa, they actually had us in this attic, and everybody was in sleeping bags, and everyone's partying and drinking wine, and I put myself in Mary's sleeping bag and zipped it up over the top because I was so afraid. And it's hot, let's face it. And there all night, she was up strategizing with people, and I was sleeping in a deep sweat because I was inside this bag. I'm afraid of my own shadow. I didn't know them that well yet.
Yeah, so before I get to, well, I can either do this last or I can do this now. You talked a lot about the race, about how you're like evolving and changing, and like you're not, you said like in your exit interview, you're not the same person that you were at the start of it. So kind of, was there a moment where you're like, wow, I'm really changing? Talk about like what you were like before, and maybe like what you were like after like it was eliminated, or like what was that actual change and evolution, like maybe in a mentality or something like that.
So pre going on The Amazing Race, I lived in a small town, basically in a bubble. One of 6 children, everything's happy, 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 happy. Only knew about things from television. Was never exposed to any other ethnicities, sexual orientations, nothing. So then you're put on this amazing race, and you are pushed past every level of comfort you could possibly be in. And then you're being filmed while you're being pushed. So I feel like, especially during the race, each leg, when I look back at what we accomplished, or even just what we went through, I realized how much bigger the world is than myself, and how little I am in the big picture, and how just opening your eyes to different things, it changes you as a human. I mean, it humbled me in ways that I can't describe.
So unfortunately, after going from oh my god, unfortunately after going from first place, you go to last place. So let me just start at the beginning of the Hong Kong leg. So you seem to not be doing too badly in the beginning. You got lost a little bit, and you followed Gary and Dave, and you got the clue to go to Hong Kong, and then you get like a decent flight. I think you were like in the middle of the pack, or I'm not sure if you were in the front, or I forget like where you actually were, but you weren't last at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And then talk about, why do you struggle so much at the train station when like Gary and Dave and those people would just get on the train station, and you were just like standing or like sitting, and you didn't know like what you were doing? I think it was like money exchange, or kind of talk about that.
So Mary and I have never been on a train in our lives. Think about that. So we've never purchased tickets. Yes, we've never purchased tickets. Again, the language barrier, and remember the gender barrier in Hong Kong versus even South Africa or South America. So 2 women traveling alone, you would speak to people and they would put their hands in your face. A man, I'm not speaking to you. So we really were defeated quickly, and we had a really hard time just figuring out how to buy the train tickets. So that would be why.
Yeah, so you fall behind during the train station, and then this is your, I'm not sure, well, obviously the T was your main factor of not finishing, but did you just misread the clue? Why did you think it was Central Plaza instead of Center? Like, was there...
So here we go about my sister. If she was here, we'd probably be in a fist fight right now. So she insisted that it was Central. It was Center, right?
Yeah, Center.
Right. She insisted. And when she was talking to the cab driver, she's so aggressive, and she's yelling at him, and he's saying Center and she's saying Central. So I still actually have that clue where she has the word Central underlined 3 times. Oh yeah. But remember, we tried to get a fast forward too.
Yeah, I was going to talk about that. So, how annoying was that? Because, like, uh, did you like speak up? Because I would have been like, "Hey, he's the one living here. We've never been here before. We're in a race," and I can't even imagine doing the like. I even can't even imagine doing it with my dad or doing it with my sibling. If I ever get on the show, I'm doing it with my friend just because we do less arguing. Because I feel like as siblings, even with my twin brother, I feel like we would argue like a bunch. But
Mhm.
what was that like? Did you just want to like scream at her, or like did anything
I
happen?
did a lot of screaming, but she calls it hissy fits, and then she shuts me off. You're never winning with her. If she believes it's left, it's left. You can say, no, 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 the flag's on the right, it's on the right, it's on the left. So there's no winning. Absolutely no winning there. I had to go with it.
So, uh, talk about you go for the fast forward. Did you know that Gary and Dave were going for it because you said like they had the rock thing, obviously, and then kind of talk about. Uh, they said that you were only like 10 minutes away from them. So obviously you were close, but uh, were you close enough where because it took them they got there. I'm not sure if it was quickly, but it took them a while to get the clue. Were you in a vicinity of them where you kind of messed up like trying to find it when you were there and that kind of screwed you, or was it just like too late at that point?
Well, we would have talked about it on the flight if that was their intent. I really don't believe that they maliciously just didn't tell us. I think last minute they both decided this is so difficult to get around, let's just go for it. And then Mary and I already had the plan to go for it, so we didn't get to speak to each other. And we did not see them, once we did get on the train, we did not see them when we went looking for it. It
Okay.
was weird late.
So yeah, so once you because I looked at the editing, it looked kind of cut like you were there, and it looked a little bit closer than it was. Obviously, it was 10 minutes, but 10 minutes of the Amazing Race, like if you look at the after leg, like you only finished like 20 something minutes ahead of the last place team, so 10 minutes
Right.
can be a lot of time. But I just didn't know if you were actually closer. So once you don't get the fast forward, you obviously look, you and your sister both look really drained, or especially you. Your sister's still trying to find out directions for like 20 minutes. And so, kind of talk about going through, just trying to figure out where you're going, and then maybe like the T wasn't, it was like a detour, and kind of like, why was it so difficult? Were you just like exhausted and kind of done, or was it really just like, uh, the taste of it and stuff like that?
Okay, so once we went for the fast forward and it was taken, without a doubt, we both were defeated, just so like mentally exhausted. And then when we went for the clue, if you remember, it was a T that the body, mind, and soul. Well, what does that mean? Well, when I was little, my parents had a grocery store, and there was a thing people bought called castor oil
Yeah.
when you have stomach ache. Okay, so it's this disgusting oil. Well, what they don't tell you is that's what was in the tea. So they want you to drink. It was a very large chalice of basically oil with tea leaves pressed in it. I couldn't keep it down. I couldn't.
Yeah, so they kind of, well, how frustrating was it the leg before that it was a non-elimination leg? Like,
Ah,
no offense to Chris and Alex, but as far as like, I think you make better. I mean, their Tara and Will uh, connection obviously was a huge part of the season because they end up winning. But other than that, I really think you make better TV. And as far as like having an all-girl team, like, don't you think production would rather have that?
well, that's what we thought. But it's funny you're saying that because when you're racing, you feel like they're they have a storyline that they are trying to conjure up and they have to tweak it. It's television. We understand. But when they got the non-elimination, we were angry. And I actually believed when I was eliminated that it might be a non-elimination. I really believed it in my heart.
Yeah,
Quite a
because
bunch.
the season before, like Nancy and Emily, they were in India and they were like really like sexist towards like women and stuff like
Yeah.
that. Like, they wouldn't give them tickets. And so I'm not sure if they planned it to be a non-elimination, but it was a non-elimination, and I don't think it would have really looked good if they were eliminated on that leg. They were obviously eliminated on the next one prior, but he talked about like people dismissing you and stuff like that. I thought maybe it would have been uh, a non-elimination leg, but was your sister like okay with you, because she seemed like okay on the mat, like she was like proud of you, but like how did she like handle it? Like we kind of saw her like trying to encourage you, but what was her thought?
So my sister does not like to lose. I'm sure you've noticed that watching
Yeah.
her. When we went to the hotel, she did not speak to me probably from there to the sequestered city, probably for another month after that, till she could
Wow.
ask me. She was really mad at me.
So, what was the difference in terms of you didn't get the fast forward in the fourth leg, and then you obviously didn't get it on this one? So, what was the difference in terms of like your mentality? Like, did you know in terms of, like the fourth leg that you were like in the back of the pack or the middle, or like why did you kind of not you didn't really give up? Obviously, it was like just the tea was disgusting and stuff, but you just looked a lot more drained. So, can you kind of talk about like comparing each one and how you like fought through the first one and how you just like this one not getting it was like the nail in your coffin?
I believe that obviously looking back, you can see it with clarity. It's so much easier. But at the time, I think I was so physically and mentally exhausted, and being in Hong Kong was so difficult that I didn't even care if I got eliminated. Obviously, I did. But at that moment where I just want to sleep in a bed for one night and I think I'd be better. Like that, I think that's where you're at. But once you're eliminated, the reality comes crushing down on your shoulders. Like it's real. You couldn't suck it up, Peach, for one more night. And that's, you can never take it back.
So what was sequester like? Because I interviewed people from season one and they said they were all secluded in like Paris and they could go travel. So were you just like secluded in one area? Were you able to go uh, travel for maybe a day or two? Do you have any fun sequester stories?
So I actually have a really good story that it sounds like I'm making up, but I could literally back this up for you. So we are sequestered and you're given a new name. You answer to that name, and we had a person that like watched us, almost like a daycare. And you never could leave anywhere within the circle unless you were with them. So the one night we were going out to this dinner at an Italian restaurant, and we're walking down the pavement like little ducks in a row. And I say to this person, I won't use her name, I know these people walking towards us. And she's like, oh, okay, Peach. I'm like, no, for real. They run the pizza shop at Knoebels Grove amusement park by my home. They're just, everyone knows them. Well, they're best friends with my husband's brother. And they're like, yeah, Peach, for real. I'm like, no, I'm telling you, that's who they are. So we all dove in the bushes, like all these sequestered teams, and we're hiding in the bushes till they pass us. Well, when we came home and there was a party and these people were at one of the parties, and I said, can I ask you a question? Were you in this location? I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say the location. I
Yes,
guess I could.
Jen.
Yeah, we were in Cancun. And
Oh,
I, you in Cancun? And I said the name of the restaurant. And they're like, oh, yeah, that's our favorite, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, okay, so I know you're not going to believe me, but I was in that group of people who dove in the bushes. And they're like, we thought you were so weird. And it was me.
well, did they see you or
Well,
no?
yeah, they didn't know it was me. They didn't, because I mean, I knew them from afar. They're really easy to spot. But it was only two versus I'm with the whole group. It was pretty funny.
So were you ever contacted after season two? were you ever contacted for All Stars or given an availability call or anything like that?
Well, offensive. No, I was never called back. I think because they feel like I quit in Hong Kong, and I am sorry if they feel that way, but the Peach that I am today, if I got called back, I would race until I couldn't walk. I've grown so much as a person just through life experience and things we've gone through. I would do it. I would never quit.
Yeah, so how do you think, would you race with your sister again? And then how do you think your relationship would be different, maybe? Because it's 20 years later.
I would race with my sister again in a minute because basically we have to. We have to prove it right. Uh, we would be amazing. However, there's a lot of things that didn't change. So the TV would still be good because that's real. That's not pretend. That is as real as it gets. And right now we're actually, we love each other with all our hearts, but we fight like a cat and a dog because I just believe a whole different lifestyle than she does.
Yeah, well, that's is there anything that I haven't mentioned that you kind of want to talk about, or you
I don't think so. I think you've hit everything. I think that the things that people don't see are the things that would be amazing on the show, like even a clock. I know that sounds crazy, but so people would understand, the amount of time, like you asked me before in the airport or on the train, not like, oh, 4 hours, 35 minutes. You see what I mean? Like a reality time.
Yeah.
Like I said, I'm traveling with friends and they get frustrated over the flight being delayed. I say, oh, suck it up, Buttercup. You have no idea. This is nothing. You can have a martini right now if you choose to. Like, this is nothing to what Amazing Race travel is. But in the other hand, an experience of a lifetime that can never be replicated. And you don't know it until you watch it, till it's over.
Yeah, that's why I'm terrified of flying now, just because I keep watching The Amazing Race, and one of my friends, they have to connect in like 2 flights or whatever to come see him, and I'm just like, dear God, is this going to be delayed? So, yeah.
You can't. Since the race, I've traveled everywhere. I've changed. I'm a whole different person. I'm actually World Poker Tour traveler, so I travel a lot. So it's easy. But this, like I said, this Peach knows how to travel because of that Peach and what she couldn't do. I'll never be that way again. That naive.
Yeah, that's all the questions that I have. If there's anyone that you think I should interview, let me know. Oh, who do you still keep in contact with?
Oh, okay. So Danny and Ozzy, always. They're my people. The twins, once in a while, but without a doubt, Cindy and Russell. They're really good people. So
Yeah.
we all keep in contact on Facebook. One of the beauties of Facebook.
Yeah, that's good. That's how I get most of my interviews. But yeah, that's all the questions that I have. And if there's anyone that you think I should interview, let me know, because I'm trying to make the rounds.
All right, if I can get a hold of my sister, I would love for you to speak to her because it would be a whole different interview.
Yeah, I would love to have like the perspective from like you from her, just because that's why I think maybe that's why they picked you, because your dynamic was so different.
I'm telling you, the interview in Philly, we're at this radio station right by the Liberty Bell, and this man, his name was John. They came down the elevator, and he looked at me and he said, "You're in trouble." He goes, "You filled out her application?" I said, "I answered every question." So when we went upstairs to talk, I already knew that he knew that we were fit for something different, because you can't make, if you have siblings, you just know. You just know.
So what were they like? Were they like, Mary, you're carrying them, like, why do you think you'd be good at Survivor? Because you like Louis Vuitton bags? Like, did you answer like that, or did you answer like her?
Well, she told on me as soon as she went upstairs, because that's what she does. She said, "Just so you know, I don't watch TV. I don't know what we're talking about, and I've never seen Survivor."
Oh.
And that's when they came down to get me, because what is she worth sitting there? She just about made Survivor, I believe it was Africa, but then she she wouldn't listen in the hotel room, and they had them sequestered, and she escaped. And it's a long story that I'd like her to tell you, but or we probably wouldn't have been on the show. Maybe later, which would have been better, once all the kinks were worked out.
Yeah, she's
But
probably glad that she wasn't on Survivor Africa because I would die on that show.
oh, I'm telling you, she could live on a cracker. She'd eat bugs. She doesn't care.
Yeah, but thank you so much for this interview, and I'll definitely let you know when this is posted, and I'll send you a
Okay.
message, and hopefully
It's been a
everyone
pleasure.
enjoys it. But thank you so much, and I really appreciate it. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.